I hear the phrase defined ambition and compare it with defined contribution and defined benefits as they exist now, and it seems like a very straightforward swap to be made. A lot of people, when they hear the phrase tontine, their head immediately goes to, murder mystery stories.
Yep.
And so I have to wonder, why would you not stick with defined ambition as your plan, and why are we comparing it to tontines?
Okay, so the construction of a collective defined contribution scheme is the term that they use in Europe for the defined ambition scheme. The biggest risk facing that scheme is that you got young guys like yourself putting money in with older guys like myself and maybe, Uncle Jim, who's, reached 65. You now have to trust the trustees and the actuaries not to pay too much to Jim or to me and to make sure there's enough left for you. Yeah? And this is a big problem. So the reason we're interested in tontines and the reason we want to bring it back is that we want to make it very simple. We want to make it very easy for you to trust in the tontine. And the way we do that is that, if we use the case of your Uncle Jim again, we get 10,000 guys, they've reached retirement age, they put their money into the tontine, and it's only guys of the same age that have put in the same amount of money. We keep the ladies in a separate pool, because they're going to outlive the guys. So, they'd always win. And the idea is that now you've got these members in a dead pool. And, year by year, at age 65, let's say Jim puts in $1 million. The first few years, he's getting $5,500 a month. 5 years later, it's gone up to $6,000 a month because the number of members in the pool has gone from 10,000 maybe down to 9,500. And bit by bit, the number of members in the group is falling, and the payment that's being made every month is going up. And the whole point is that if Jim lives long enough, he lives late into his 90s, he's going to be flying around the latest Tesla because we need to pay all that money out because it belongs to the members.
Could you then just simply draw a line in the sand with Social Security, for instance? If we're taking one, it is a dead pool. My family doesn't get a check when I die for my Social Security benefits, which are left over. It goes back into the fund. So it is in the same way as a dead pool, but it's all grouped together. So could they just draw that line in the sand where we say everybody before this point is grouped together, and now we're going to start slicing you into cohorts, and that would follow this sort of tontine model that you're trying to offer, not only to in reading your work, you're trying to bring some of this to the private market, but then also trying to help governments around the world implement a system similar to this for their own people.
Yeah, well, it's we were talking to the pension folk over at the World Bank last year, and they built this amazing new pension system for Kenya, and they launched it because they said, Kenya needs to get a pension system. The problem was that, I think after 8 years, the number of people participating out of a population of, correct me if I'm wrong, 50 million, was, I think, about 75,000 people were now contributing into the pension system because they just, they didn't really see the value. So that was a defined contribution scheme. And then I explained to them that, look, everything you've done is fantastic. The problem is you haven't offered value. You haven't excited the population. And this is where the tontine comes in. Because the reality is, when you join a tontine, you're taking a bet on you. Yeah, you're betting. You're no longer worried that, I could live 20 years and run out of money and be dependent on the kids or anything like that. You're taking a bet. You're betting that you're going to outlive everybody else. Yeah, and if you do, the payoff is so spectacular. You'll never have to worry about money again. And that mechanism, that behavioral science mechanism, has historically proven to be the fastest way to raise the savings rate in any particular country, because everybody wants to take that bet.
So if you were to compare that psychological aspect of it to life insurance, where you're essentially taking the opposite bet, you're betting that you are going to die before you're able to accrue enough savings for the people that you care about, that's not a bet that anyone wants to think about. And just a good anecdote surrounding that is I had a boss who at the time was in Omaha, Nebraska. This was before he moved to where I was living at the time. And he had a friend who was a contractor who worked for the police force. Whenever somebody would die, he would go and do the body cleanup. And he would call my insurance agent boss and say, I got a really good story for you that you can use to help scare people into buying life insurance. You know, XYZ, I had to go clean up a body from somebody who fell down the stairs at the family reunion, and like his mom and his daughter found him. Like it was all 3 generations were there to witness this whole thing. And that's the type of story that it takes to get people to make this bet. And there is arguably a place, I'm not totally disparaging life insurance. There are places and times and prices for life insurance, but when it takes that sort of psychological tool to get people to buy it, it lets you see how hard it is for people to make that bet on themselves. But it is actually very easy to make the bet that you are going to outlive everybody. Everybody wants to think that way. And even some of the sales mechanisms that tontines have been used for structuring in the past kind of demonstrate this, where you're trying to raise money for a project, and the idea that one lucky person in that group could end up becoming the sole owner of whatever project it is that you're trying to build can really encourage a lot of people to maybe buy something that if they were just going to be a part owner and it was guaranteed that they were only going to be a part owner, and they might buy that. And historically, you know, the New York Stock Exchange and the coffee house on Wall Street is a great example of that. I look back and they sold shares initially at 200 pounds, and they really could have just sold shares in a mutually owned coffee house, but why did they choose this tontine structure? And it has to do with that psychological effect of, I'm more willing to place that $200 bet if I outlive everybody, then my $200 becomes all of these other things, and I don't have to buy anybody out or anything like that. It's just really luck. And then as well in the UK, there was the bridge in London. You actually brought this one up. I'll kick that one back to you.
Yeah, so in a lovely corner of London where I used to live, there's called Richmond, and they had this wonderful old bridge, which was needed. You know, it's been there for a few centuries, but it was needed, you know, way prior to that. And they couldn't raise the money to do it. And someone came up with the idea, well, let's just run a tontine. You know, and immediately they were able to raise the money. They had a whole lot of people club in. And every year the bridge collected tolls for people that crossed it, and they paid it out to the members, but only as long as you lived. So the longer you lived, the bigger a share you got from the bridge.
And eventually one lucky person owned that bridge. I'm sure, does the family still own the bridge these many hundred years later?
There's no tolls, I can tell you, there's no tolls anymore. It's probably a speeding camera, which I've contributed to, but that's a different story.